Hello, I'm Steve, professor of psychology, but also one of the co-founders of peerScholar. Sian sent a few questions that she asked if I might address, and we thought it might be better to do it in a video. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll read each question, and then I'll give you my reply. Okay, so the first one is, how does peerScholar provide enough detail about each student's current skills to guide teachers in addressing issues and adapting content and methods? And so there's really two answers to this question. One we might call a more informal answer and one a more formal kind of approach. So informally, peerScholar is very rich. As a student goes through the process, they originally submit some piece of work, but then they are giving feedback to peers. They are also receiving feedback from peers. They are assessing, peers in very specific ways. They're also assessing the feedback they received, and they are using that feedback as something to guide them in a formative revision of their work. So there's a whole lot of information about the student's journey as they went through the process, and all of that information is available to the teacher. So one of the things I like to highlight about that is, you can focus on like the product of their work, how good was their original draft, how good was their final composition, but you can also get a better sense of the process, what the student is actually experiencing. For example, you can look at the feedback that a student received on their draft, and then you can look at how they reacted to that feedback. What were their answers as they went through an analysis of that feedback? And ultimately, you can see how they use that feedback to guide a revision. So you have a really rich sense of, sort of how that student is thinking and how that thinking is translating into their work. And so that can give a teacher a really clear sense of where a student may need some support along the way. The more formal approach is the following. You can, if you combine peerScholar with the use of validated rubrics, for example, the Association for American Colleges and Universities, AAC&U, has a bunch of validated rubrics around core transferable skills like critical thinking, creative thinking, etc. If you have students apply a rubric to the work of their peers, and if enough students, so if I was a student and I had like 4 or 5 of my peers apply, say, a critical thinking rubric to my work, we can actually quantify, we can use that peer average, and we've got research to show this, as a measure of that student's critical thinking. And you could do the same with creative thought, oral presentation skills, whatever you would like. So in a much more quantitative way, you can actually track the development of these skills and, maybe even learn how certain things impact those skills, which could then be something you bring back into your program. Okay, how does peerScholar help us to create a learning environment that promotes student curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion? When we created peerScholar, we were guided a lot by something called self-determination theory. It's a very powerful theory in psychology that's got a lot of support. And it says that for a student to really to throw themselves into some experience, any experience, they have 3 needs that need to be met. Their need for autonomy, some sense of that they're in control of the experience. Their need for competency. You have to support them in what you're asking them to do. You can't throw them over their head or they're going to not enjoy the experience. But if they feel competent, then they will enjoy. So you have to support the competence. And they also need a sense of relatedness. They need to feel connected to the other people in that environment. When you have those things, that's what's going to stimulate this curiosity and interest. Students will be engaged, they will find the experience valuable, and they will be feeling like they're doing it because they want to do it, that there's something for them. So we've really imbued peerScholar with that, and especially when you look at our micro-learning videos, which you can see at videos.peerscholar.com if you'd like. They are all about convincing students that this is something they should want to do, that it has great value to them, and we explicitly say what that value is. And we also have little micro-learning videos that really help a student understand the complexity of the tasks, giving feedback and learning from feedback. Those are very difficult tasks. but we walk them through why they're difficult and how to succeed on them. So we really support them, making them feel competent. And of course, we're in this condition where everybody's giving each other feedback and trying to help each other improve. And that really helps that relatedness, that sense of community. So we've certainly found in our research that students really find these activities valuable. They want more of them, as do the instructors. And yeah, they totally buy in, even though it's a lot of work that they're doing. But they're seeing the value. They like to see the work of their peers. They love the opportunity to revise their work before final submission. And so, yeah, it is something students find engaging and valuable for sure. Excellent. Okay. 3, how does peerScholar create dynamic student collaboration to learn, teach each other, and contribute to each other's success? I mean, that is the heart of peerScholar, right? We're really allowing the students to drive the learning, which, obviously an instructor can come after the fact and add some expert commentary to everything that happened. But the process itself is exactly that. It's all about students trying to help each other and engaging all the critical thought, creative thought, communication skills as they do. And of course, the heart of the learning is learning to give constructive feedback in a way that will be received and impactful. And the core to that is learning some emotional sensitivity, learning how to tell somebody areas they can improve in a way they will listen to. And that emotional sensitivity is a core skill that will help our students all through their life. Okay, how does peerScholar support students to set personal learning goals and get personalized coaching aligned to their personal and professional interests, goals, and aspirations, their mindsets, their whole self? Yeah, I'm thinking of a special thing we're creating right now that brings Indigenous pedagogy into peerScholar, and it's exactly about this. It's an activity that teachers would use at the beginning of a learning experience with a new community of students, and it involves students telling their story and then responding to the story of other students, finding points of commonality, finding things they would like to learn better. And the whole notion of that activity is to start the learning experience by seeing each other as human beings first. And then as students second, right? And so that's sort of definitely what that activity is all about. But peerScholar in general, because it's student-paced, and I'll give you one example. Some students find that they're already pretty good. Like, I'm a good writer. I don't know if my peers are helping me improve that much as a good writer. Maybe, but this person is now learning to give feedback well. So someone who's already at a high competency level, the skills they're learning are more about supporting others, giving them feedback in ways that will impact their learning, etc. Those who aren't doing so well, they're more benefiting from those peers who are doing well. So they're more getting that support from each other. So where you kind of fit in the process is a function of your personal competency, but there's something there for everybody, right? Learning how to learn from feedback is just as important as learning how to give feedback effectively. And so students can very much find a level of interaction that really they find useful, they find valuable. And absolutely, it's pro-social. It's about students helping each other. It's that whole mentality that we are a learning community who are all trying to grow together. And that's the core philosophy. How does peerScholar enable teachers to maximize time working with students to help them learn? I think it's more how you spend the time than maximizing the time. I'm not going to tell you peerScholar is going to reduce your workload. It's not. But it will give you a far richer picture of what your students are experiencing as they go through. And that will allow you, to identify students perhaps that require a little bit more support outside of the support the system provides. But it will also, for those students, give you a sense of exactly where they're having the problems. Are they having problems simply just getting to the point of the feedback? Like maybe they have such an emotional reaction to the feedback, they never seem to answer well that question, what was the central point this person was trying to communicate? So you can see that. You can say, okay, let's talk about that emotional reaction and how to get by that. And so really what we're doing is we're giving the teachers a much clearer sense of the student experience, which is going to allow them to choose how and when to spend their time and with which students, that really need the time, which gets back to that question of personalized learning, right? Some students are doing really well, and they are almost now on the teacher side of things. They are helping the teacher help the other students. other students, would require a little bit more support, and you can see the difference between those. Okay, those were a few quick answers, and I've also sent some to Sian in written form. So anyway, thank you very much for your interest. I look forward to working with you. Fantastic. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.